Hi, class. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the use of solitary confinement in prisons and what the problems are and the ethical issues with that. So, solitary confinement is the physical isolation of individuals who are confined to their cells for 22.5 hours or more per day. The amount of time that an inmate can spend in solitary confinement can vary between days, weeks, months, and even years. Inmates in solitary typically live in a small cell for up to 23 hours a day. They have little sensory stimulation like sunlight. So, some of the problems that are experienced with solitary confinement is that they cause many psychological problems for prisoners that are stuck in the solitary confinement. Solitary confinement leaves many inmates with mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and hallucinations. As shown in the chart, it causes many mental illnesses that lead to the death of many people who were put in solitary confinement. So as you can see in this chart, it says that were more likely after being placed in solitary confinement multiple times. Like says here, in suicide, you're 129% more likely to commit suicide after being placed in solitary confinement multiple times. So the ethical issue that I have found with solitary confinement is that it causes people pretty much to go insane. Like you can see here, like there's nothing in the solitary confinement cell with these people that are put into these cells. So it sort of causes them to go crazy and then hallucinate, get anxiety and depression from not seeing anybody and barely getting very, very little sunlight throughout the day. And this continues to be an ethical issue because we know all that comes of this type of punishment, and we still continue to put prisoners in these types of cells where they won't see anybody for days or experience sunlight really barely because they have those little windows. That's about it. So I think this is why this continues to be an ethical issue because of all the problems that are known from this type of punishment. And like So a real life story that has to do with people going like pretty much going crazy because of solitary confinement. I found one from Ian Manuel, who is currently out and is doing pretty well, I'd say. He still has problems here and there because of all things he's experienced, but his story. So he was put in prison originally as a 13-year-old because he committed a crime of robbery and he shot a woman in the face. Didn't kill her, thank God, but did obviously cause enough damage to be put into prison. And once he got there, he was put in solitary confinement. And then he's taken out and moved all around. And then he got put back in there. So for 18 years straight, he was put in solitary confinement. And while he was, and I found this all from an article that he has written himself. And he talks about how what other people would do to get themselves out of solitary confinement just for a week or a day. In the article, he talked about how people would stab themselves and cut themselves open and cause physical harm to themselves in order to get out of solitary confinement for a week, just to experience something else besides those brick walls that they were in. And you can see here that he even committed, I think, he also caused himself harm. Nothing crazy, obviously, but he still caused himself damage by overdosing on Tylenol, which caused him to go into the hospital, which he would do multiple times just to experience something else besides those walls and even get to watch a little TV while in the hospital. And so, as you see in the bottom, Manuel was released in 2010 and is doing much better and trying to live his best life. And but he still deals with PTSD from what he has seen, what is going on that he saw in the cells. And then he also often experiences anxiety about normal things that people see every day. Like I saw in the article that he said he gets nervous seeing cars and bikes because he's not used to seeing that every day. So he gets nervous and like jumps back almost when he sees a car and that's not even near him or close to him, and he just jumps back because he's so nervous. So my policy to resolve this ethical issue, which would be the mental illnesses that come from the solitary confinement. So the way I would try and resolve this would be to limit the amount of time an inmate can be put in solitary confinement for the day. So they said 23 hours. If they can maybe minimize that by you're still enforcing that punishment of them being by themselves, but now it's just not for as long. So they won't start to go crazy because they're not in there so much by themselves. Like maybe give them an hour to maybe get a read or something, and then, or maybe an hour just for physical activity. So that way that they can do something else besides just stare at a brick wall and think to themselves. Because doing that so long has caused people to have all these problems, these mental illnesses, such as like anxiety, depression, and just pretty much going insane because there's nothing that you're doing. You're just in there by yourself and freaking out pretty much. So that would be how I would try and resolve this ethical issue would be to figure out a way for them to sorry, would be a way for like to minimize these hours so that way they can see other things than just those brick walls. Just give them a little leeway. I understand that you're weakening the punishment a little bit, but it's going to help them keep their sanity. So, and these are all my references. Thank you guys for listening to me today, and I hope I taught you guys a little something about the solitary confinement in the prisons today. Thank you.